So acceptance is really a big part of Vipassana or insight meditation. You know, the Buddhist practice of mindfulness-based meditation. And acceptance is not just blindly accepting something, but it's more of an acceptance, like an awareness that we accept that something has happened, and we have to have that ability to accept before we can let go. And letting go, of course, is really the practice itself, you know, to be able to let go of these things, primarily attachments. So if we can accept a belief, or accept something that has happened in the past, or accept something that is happening at the moment, we stand a much better chance of not letting it get sticky and being able to let it go. Attachment, opposite of attachment is detachment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too easy though. Yeah. Detachment. Resistance. What we resist persists. Have you heard that before? And it's true, because if we're resisting something, we're applying pressure, so we're paying attention to it, and so it persists. An analogy, I think a very good analogy, if you ever try to take a good-sized beach ball, and if you're in the pool and you try to put it under the water, it's very difficult, and you have to keep applying pressure all the time, you know, to keep that beach ball or any kind of ball, you know, in the water. And so there's that resistance, you know, that it wants to keep coming up at you, I guess we could say. And it does take a lot of effort, you know, to resist something rather than to accept it. And again, so if something comes up and it's accepted, we have a different kind of attitude about it. So we can say that, yeah, it happened, you know, I accept the fact that it happened, and now what? You know, what's the next step? And so we have to apply that step in order to get to the spiritual step, which is to be able to renounce these things and let them go, so that we can move on, you know, with our life and get on with our primary goal, which is to awaken, you know, to some extent, whatever that might mean for each of us, you know. And so acceptance is really key. We want to first notice, you know, what we're working with. Sometimes it can come up. It could be something that we're very, very conscious of, or it could be something that comes up from, you know, subconscious. Something that's been buried, something that we don't even realize is there. It can come up in our meditation and come up in everyday living. So we want to first notice it, and notice that it is something that we can see as something that we are hanging on to, something that we are resisting in some way, that we cannot accept. And then once it's accepted, of course, the next stage would be to be able to let it go. But it has to be accepted first. That's why acceptance is so important. And we can talk about all these things. And I was just watching where you're going.
I didn't turn my phone off in the kitchen. I'm sorry. I've got it
Oh, okay. That's a good reminder, actually. If anybody has their phone on, maybe think about turning it off. We haven't had too much of that problem here, though. It's amazing. I can't remember the last time a phone went off. Maybe I just didn't hear it. But I got my hearing aids in tonight, so. And then I thought I'll guide us through this meditation in the area of acceptance, and then I thought we would kind of go around the room and see if each of us found something to accept, and to see whether we have let go of it or not. And it could be anything sticky, or anything that, and it can surprise us, you know. It can surprise us what can come up for us. And it might be something we might already know, something that we are something that we're having trouble accepting. It could be a belief, it could be a situation, it could be a thing, it could be virtually anything. It could be a habit, could be something that anything that we really like that isn't necessarily good for us. It could even be something that is good for us. You know, it's not a bad test of our will and mindfulness to be able to let go of something and then pick it up later on. You know, to accept it, that I'm really getting attached to this thing, although it's not bad for me, I'm getting attached to it. To set it down and pick it up later, you know, it's a really good practice. It's a kind of a boost, you know, for our spirituality in some ways. So if something comes up in the meditation, kind of take a snapshot of it and remember what it is, and then we'll come back to it, and maybe you'll get a chance to mention it real briefly after the meditation. So. And then after the meditation, we'll recite the metta, and then we'll have our little question and answer and sharing. Okay? So I'm going to ask you to just get comfortable, but before you close your eyes, I'm going to have you leave your eyes open for a few moments. So just resting in your meditation posture, just leave your eyes open for a moment and kind of, you know, take a mindful look at everything that you're seeing in front of you, you know, in the room. And just notice if there's anything that you're seeing that you're not accepting. Something that maybe you don't agree with, or that looks off, or you're any kind of judgment at all, you know. Maybe you see something that you like, and you're thinking, well, I should have this in my house, or I should have this in my meditation center, or, you know, that kind of thing. Because acceptance is connected to the senses. It's visual. And the same thing when we close our eyes, we see imagery and visualization, you know, behind the eyelids. And, of course, it can be kinesthetic, by touching. It can be auditory, by hearing, smell, the sense of smell, sense of taste, and of course the mind, you know, is the, for a lot of people that's the real problem that we have with acceptance, and sometimes it's our very own beliefs. So go ahead and close your eyes if you like. Maybe take a nice deep breath. Settle into the cushion or chair, keeping the back fairly straight, chin lifted a little bit or tucked. You can place the hands anywhere that is comfortable. Just for a few moments, bring your attention to the breath. And of course, we use the breath a lot. But see if we can use the breath in a very mindful, non-judgmental way. Complete acceptance with each breath. And that usually means that we're just allowing the body to do the breathing, that we're not manipulating it in any way. If we were actually doing like a pranayama practice or something, we would be forcing the breath, and even behind that practice there's a little bit of a a non-acceptance of the natural breath. So we're looking for acceptance in everything, every breath, every visualization or imagery that we have. And when you find this place that everything is seemingly 100% accepting, that we are accepting, just notice the peace that comes about and the quality of life that allows us to be that close to letting go of anything that comes up as a disturbance or a judgment or a problem in any way. And of course, we can be accepting of something and not be ready to let it go, which is perfectly fine as well. But the first step is the acceptance. Notice anything, any sounds that you hear. You might be hearing the airplane coming closer to the house, it sounds like, or you might be listening to my voice. Is there any resistance to that? Or is it accepting? Acceptance. And sometimes when we sit in silence, I've heard people actually say that it's too silent. That means that for some reason they're not accepting the silence itself. If there was a persistent barking of a dog or a honking of a horn or something, we might notice that there's a lack of acceptance in that moment. Are there any smells in the air that you might not be accepting of? Are there any tastes? Or are there any kinesthetic feelings within the body? Maybe the chair isn't right or the cushion isn't right. Maybe your back is a little bit sore from working out earlier, or maybe you realize you didn't wear the most comfortable clothes. And maybe everything is just absolutely the way it's supposed to be. And there's complete acceptance in the moment. And when we do these practices of acceptance, we can turn the tide, so to speak. We can notice things aren't exactly perfect, but we can accept that. We just see it for what it is. We're actually seeing the truth of the matter. And we come to a realization that the world and everything in it is just being the world. It's doing what the world does. It's the characteristic of the world. It's the nature of the world. Whether it's seemingly perfect or imperfect, right or wrong, good or bad, it is what it is. And there's a great amount of acceptance in that. In the practice of non-duality, generally looked at as a Hindu practice, there's a great amount of acceptance in these dualities, these differences, making it a whole, a oneness. And so as meditators, we want to find that oneness. And our meditation is the area to really practice this. If a memory of something that happened comes up, and it's something that gives us that familiar feeling of dread or uncertainty or fear or anger, we can see whether we are accepting or not. Do we accept what happened? And then in that acceptance, are we then ready to move on to either more investigation or complete letting go? And so if we practice acceptance in our meditation practice, and we do it consistently, we can notice that how this lack of acceptance can really alter our happiness in life. And some of us are maybe defiant by nature. Some of us learn these traits from our teachers, our family, our parents, our siblings, our friends, without even realizing it. It's subconscious programming. And so the practice of acceptance, particularly in meditation, can really point out a lot of very interesting and valuable things to us. It's an incredible learning experience. And again, we're not talking about the acceptance of something that we feel isn't right, or the acceptance of somebody harming us or somebody harming our loved one in some way. We're accepting that these things had been done perhaps, and then we can investigate it and move on from there, but we're not talking about blind acceptance. And so there's no argument of what can be accepted or what is not accepted. It's accepting the fact that the truth, actually the Dharma, that something has happened. And then to be able to handle it in such a way that we can move on, eventually let it go. So we'll sit in silence and just notice any kind of resistance that comes up, or notice the feeling in the body, in the mind, when there is actual true acceptance of every kind. And notice the feeling and the feeling of being complete in the moment. Very few preferences. Not wanting things to be any different than what they currently are. That's acceptance. May each one of us and all beings be well, happy, and peaceful. May no harm come to us. May no difficulties come to us. May we all meet with spiritual and worldly success. May we have the patience, courage, and the understanding to meet and overcome any problems or any difficulties that we might face in life. Thank you. I'm curious to see if you were able to pick up on something that you were able to accept, and then whether or not, you know, there's a letting go happening, or maybe a letting go did happen. Something that came up and passed away, or something that, you know, has come up and has been sticky for a while. So maybe something that you're working with. You know, we all have our things. There's always something to, you know, accept, and particularly always something to let go of. Always. Yes. So we have a lot of people here. So you know, maybe just really 1 minute a person. So we don't want to have anybody go off on a tangent like I just did. You know. So, so Beverly, you want to share?
I guess I'm accepting my neighbors because they've been very rude, and so
that can be huge.
it's hard.
On a personal note, I'm kind of accepting that when we started meditating, you probably heard a little bit of noise over here. It wasn't bad, but there's a balcony over here, and I think they usually use that for smoking, and they go out there and have a cigarette or whatever, you know, whatever they're smoking, and then they're playing like their phone or something. You can hear it. You can hear the phone, or maybe they have the sliding door open and there's a TV and there's something. But I heard that and I thought, I can accept that because I know it's not going to last. Because how long does a cigarette last? You know. So that's the whole, same thing. The neighbor. You know. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm working on accepting that my 24-year-old son went and got a motorcycle, which terrifies me, and I haven't let it go yet. I'm still trying to figure out ways that I can somehow get him to give it up, which is not going to happen. So ultimately, I will have to let go.
Yeah, that's a good one. The kids are sticky for moms.
Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah. How about Amy?
I'm working on accepting that I moved into a new office building that doesn't have heat.
No heat.
Consistently, and the plumbing is always, the bathrooms are always out of order. So, and it's been almost 2 months, so I'm working on accepting that. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, that's a biggie because you spend 8 hours a day there or more. Yeah.
More.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get a plumber over there for you. Daniel.
I mean, in this meditation, I was kind of like dozing into fantasies a lot. Like stories were going on, which doesn't mean much, obviously, except you're kind of tired. I haven't meditated this late in a while, but one of them came up that was like work related, and I could see that fantasy play out, and then I kind of used that to accept. There are some changes at work going on that are frustrating, you know, and I had a meeting about a lot of it today, so just kind of letting that go. I can't make all the decisions, so just accept it.
Something you're kind of working on.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I don't really have anything.
No?
Not really.
Okay. Go ahead. Jim.
I guess mine would be just that I've been working on accepting the fact that I can be kind to people and still have limits to it, not let them not feel like I need to be over kind to them or let them let them take advantage.
Yeah.
To set the limits and cut things off when I need to.
Yeah. Kind of like boundaries or limits, like you said. Yeah. Yeah. I can see that.
You actually stole mine. It was the neighbors talking.
Oh, really? Okay.
I accepted it.
I should have not said anything. Okay. Yeah. So that's pretty minor. You probably heard that before too, right? I mean.
Yeah, I heard it, and then I just kind of said, you know what? I'm just going to put it in the background.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's somebody pocket.
Hi, my name's Trevor. I guess lately I've been recommitting to my meditation practice, trying to make it daily, and I'm trying to accept the fact that right now it's very challenging. Monkey mind is extremely strong, and I have a difficult time staying, I don't know, with the feelings that I'm not being productive, but yeah, that's a challenge for me.
Yeah, well, that's good. Monkey mind is there for a reason. It's there to teach you a lesson or something, you know. It's always, you know, everything's for a reason, it seems like, so. Yeah, and then when it's gone, you'll go, wow, this is great. Yeah.
The part about just accepting the fact of letting go. You know, after the acceptance, I realize I don't have to like what I accept, but then to let that go. And so accepting the letting go part.
Yeah, yeah, that's good.
What I thought about that came up a lot is accepting not being productive all the time. I struggle with that. I have a lot that I want to do, but there's like not enough hours in the day. And just accepting that it's okay to like slow down and kind of reflect on that and how you could do a little bit every day or every week and, you know, see it unfold.
Yeah, right.
So I'm working on that this year. Like I want to focus on one thing and see where I'm at a year from now.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah.
I don't know, are you doing lists? That helps
Yeah,
a lot
I'm
of people.
very big list person.
Yeah,
Yes.
make a list and then just say it's okay to push it to the next day. The ones that you don't check off, you know.
Yeah.
Just say that's fine. You know,
Right.
that works for me anyway.
Letting go, you know. It's not perfect.
Yeah.
I've been, two things. One thing I came into acceptance recently, I didn't realize that was what was going on, is that even though I always plan on putting more into my mortgage, I don't, because the kids always want something or need something. And, so I went actually to get a shorter loan today.
Oh.
So then I don't have to worry, it's taken care of.
It's going to be done. Whether you want it or not, it's going to be done. Yeah.
And,
Well, that's great.
And the other thing is just accepting how much of that my position as a dad is my primary position, period.
Yeah.
And I kept wanting to change that, and it's not going to change for a long time. So
There's some freedom behind that, isn't there? It's like, I know, I hear people do that with their work too. You know, like I've been doing, Leo Kottke, I was I don't know if you know who Leo Kottke is, he's a guitar player, but I was talking to him and he said, this is quite a few years ago, but he said, I finally came to the realization that I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life, you know, and there was some kind of happiness there, you know, because it is like, he never expected that to be that way, you know. And I can imagine the same thing being a father, you know, like, this is it, you know. But, you know, there's that's a huge acceptance thing right there. It's like, boom. Yeah. I wanted to make sure wasn't anybody in between you there.
No, I just was thinking and working on some of the acceptance about things that have been going on with my wife and I.
Yeah. Good.
It's been a better year this last year, and so far this year it's getting even better yet. So.
Great. That's the attitude.
Things have been coming
Yeah.
around.
Good. Zinga?
I'm accepting the anxiety of being able to trust that my children are going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
When it's time for me to go, so that they're going to be okay. That's my big anxiety. And I'm working on it. First day almost a doctor, so just accept it and work with it.
Yeah. Accepting can be work, you know. A lot of the work is just remembering that we have this intention, you know, to accept. It's memory. You know, it's like mindfulness. Mindfulness is a lot of memory, reminding ourselves to be mindful. And it's the same way with acceptance. Yeah. That's good. Thank you. John?
I work in the recovery field, and one of the books that's used, one of the key phrases that's quoted most often is that one of the authors are anonymous of each chapter, but one of the key phrases such as acceptance is the key to all of our problems. And that's quoted constantly, and I think the idea is that you know, once we accept something, then we can deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
When we don't accept that this is an issue, then that's another problem. And the other aspect of the acceptance that I kind of live by is that I've gone through 3 years of real radical changes in my life, and things that unexpectedly happen. And change is something that I have learned to just say I kind of expected that, and so I don't get surprised real often.
Yep.
So that's how that acceptance works in my life.
Yeah. Change, you know, in Buddhism, you know, it's constantly said that everything is impermanent. You know, that was a big insight for the Buddha, and change is going to happen. It is going to happen. And if we don't accept change, we're going against nature. We're just going against everything.
You asked before about the opposite of acceptance, and as John was talking, it just occurred to me, it's resistance.
Yeah.
That's the thing that's the problem, is the resistance that
Yeah.
we have to live.
Yeah, that's what I touched on. What we resist persists.
Right.
Yeah, and it's true. Yeah. Yeah. Chris?
Yeah, even knowing that change is going to happen, it can still be uncomfortable. You know what I mean? So accepting that. But I was thinking, intellectually, I guess I can say I've accepted, but you know, there's still some resistance in the heart, I think. But just accepting that there are certain people that that I'm not comfortable being around, and I don't have to fix that or change that or deny it or do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've, in particular, like certain family members, I've just really been struggling trying to change the way I feel or deny the way I feel. Do you know what I mean? Rather than just saying, no, I'm not comfortable, and just accepting that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's been difficult, but.
Well, we're glad you're here. That means you means you
like us.
accept us. Okay.
So I've actually been practicing this for the past 5 years, and I feel like I've gotten pretty good. Just even with like big things regarding my health and my daughter's health, but for just one thing, and I've been thinking about it lately, is with my mom. Like I have to accept the fact that my mom is not going to be the mom that I want her to be, and she's not going to be the grandmother that I want her to be. And I'm not for sure how to reconcile that.
Is that with health reasons, you mean, or?
No, I was just saying, like as an example, like of bigger things that I've accepted and moved on from, but with her, because
Yeah.
it's just so deep seated and there's so much history there.
Oh, I see.
And so you're kind of have some blindness to it on how to handle it, if that
Mm.
makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I'm confident that I'll figure it out in time, but that's really what I'm trying to deal with.
Yeah. It's almost like there's I mean, it could get kind of redundant, but it's almost like there's a reason for something like that. You know, sometimes we are just too ignorant, you know, in many ways to find out what some of these reasons are, why things are playing out the way they're playing out. And so if we understand that, then, you know, acceptance can be a little bit easier. Like, you know, I don't know what the reason for this is, but it's there, you know, acceptance. And
I think it's the acceptance of loved one's condition, health-wise, and the acceptance that I won't have the amount of time with this person that I thought I would have. So it's the acceptance of not only letting go, but the grieving that comes with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that could, you're the first person that used that word, grieving, you know, which is huge. It's a part of being human. And there's a lot of things that are not easy to accept, you know, and like Chris said, you know, the change is evident, but it's not that easy to always accept it. And any kind of grief we have, it's like we have to understand it, and in many cases just let it play out the way it's going to play out, but be with it. And many times, you know, just be with loved ones and people that understand. The trouble with grief is that we don't know how to handle it as people. I mean, you know, when somebody is grieving, the person that might be closest to them usually doesn't know how to handle it, and sometimes they prefer not even to be around when somebody's grieving. That's a whole new topic. We could get into, you know, something different. But anyway, thank you everybody for sharing. It's very interesting to see. I think it's very interesting for everybody here to hear what everybody else is trying to accept, and most of all trying to let go of. Hopefully, you know, letting go of, or will be able to let go of. And it's the proverbial backpack, you know, filled with stones, or filled with troubles, or filled with things that, you know, the analogy of just carrying around this backpack year after year, or, you know, whatever it might be, that to, you know, accept that we don't have to carry it around anymore is that letting go. And it can be huge. It can, you know, really be liberating for us to come to that conclusion, come to that space. And I think we all have at some point. I mean, you know, it's like we're able to accept and let go of something, and then something else comes up, but we can get good at that. And when we look at acceptance as relating, Terry and I were talking about karma this morning, and how, but if we look at how acceptance relates to karma, if you believe in karma or understand karma, you know, karma is basically actions, you know, actions that we take, causes and their conditions, causes and consequences from those actions. But how acceptance relates to karma is very interesting, because once we accept something, it loosens that our identification with that thing that could be a karmic, you know, consequence for us. So if there is any kind of attachment or something that we can't accept, it's like we're identifying with it in some way, like it's a part of us. Once it's accepted, and that acceptance doesn't really necessarily divide us from that action or from that activity, but it leads up to that letting go, and that ability to not identify with that as being a part of our lives. And then that's when the karma falls away. And you know, the Buddha talked about that again and again in the sutras, and ultimately that is, you know, how people wake up. You know, he's talking about these stages of enlightenment, and it's from, you know, letting go of that karma, and that a lot of that has to do with acceptance. Thank you everybody for coming. It was a really nice turnout tonight. Let's keep it up. We'll see you Saturday, okay? Thank you.